Hello, everybody. You're listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, sign up for my newsletter. You're going to get lots of free stuff, including coupons for discounts off your next session. Now, today, I'm really happy to introduce to you one of my personal favorite authors. For 24 years, I've been practicing natural healing. And one of the things that people frequently ask me about is, why can't I lose weight? What's the problem? Now, understanding this question has taken me personally on a great quest. I've learned all about healing metabolism. I've learned all about food healing. I'm a very accomplished nutritionist myself. And I'm here to tell you that it's not a matter of calories in and calories out, no matter what you will hear. And the author that we have here for you today, Maurice Horwitz, is the author of my favorite diet book. I have had clients come in my office, they look at my bookshelf and they say, I've read every diet book you have on your shelf and then some. Well, if you've read all the diet books and nothing's worked, you need to read My Life as a Diet, Understanding and Healing for Never-Ending Dieters by Maurice Horwitz. Welcome, Maurice.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Now, you can follow Maurice in the social media on Twitter at My Life as a Diet and on Facebook, My Life as a Diet. Now, Maurice became a tax accountant and worked with the U.S. government for 26 years. When he retired early, he set his intention to dramatically change his life physically, emotionally, and spiritually. One of his goals was to write a book to help the world's overweight populations. And he accomplished this goal with his Amazon #1 bestseller, My Life as a Diet. So I'm going to ask you, Maurice, what actually motivated you to come up with the idea for your book and this interesting title?
In regards to the title, before I retired, I was driving to work one day and I was listening to a talk show on the radio, and the host said, if you could describe your life in 5 words, what would those words be, and how do you feel about those words? And immediately, the breath left my body. I had to pull over into a nearby parking lot, and I was crying because the 5 words that came to me were my life as a diet. I could not believe that I was describing my life that way. You know, I did have a life, I did have a career, I had family, I had friends, but the reality was, when I said those 5 words, is that the foundation of my life was my life as a diet. And as you mentioned, I had been experiencing burnout from my career, and I decided to retire early. And then after retiring, I had to deal with a number of health crises, including cancer. I'm happy to say I am a cancer survivor. And during this period of dealing with these health crises, I gained back a lot of the weight that I had lost the prior year and a half. And I was devastated that I was back where I was. And I knew this time I had to do something different. And the difference this time was I had to change how I thought about myself. And that was the beginning of creating this plan for healing. And ultimately, I knew I had a book in me, and what I wanted to do was to help the overweight populace who had been suffering a lifetime with obesity.
And, you know, I think so many of our listeners can relate, because so many people have spent decades of their life, if not their entire life, on a diet. And I've had clients whose parents put them on a diet even as children. So I know myself, I had this issue as well, in that I've had eating disorders twice in my life, once as a teenager, and second when I had a health crisis in my 30s. So issues about eating are very, very prevalent in our society. And I want to add a personal note, because in 2015, my mother and I went to Cuba on a cultural exchange. And the experience of traveling through a third world country where people did not have enough food to eat was very, very devastating for me personally, to watch what people were actually living with. And I remember we went to a bodega in Havana, the capital of the country, where people got their food. And at the time Castro was alive, and there was a picture on the wall of Castro and his brother on the wall. And in chalk, on a chalkboard, was listed what people were allowed to eat. So many pounds of rice, so many pounds of black beans, so many eggs, so much coffee. And I'm not sure it affected other people the way it affected me, but I left there and I wept for 1 hour, because in our culture, we have so many issues about food, not just obesity, but eating disorders. And I myself, as a medical intuitive healer, I've helped people overcome every kind of eating disorder you can possibly imagine: anorexia, bulimia, orthorexia, which is feeling like you have to have the exact right thing. And my personal opinion is that I feel that the most important feeling we can ever have about food is gratitude, because billions of people around the planet literally do not have enough to eat. Now, that said, at the same time, billions of people all over the planet are also suffering from obesity. Would you share with us, Maurice, some of these statistics about obesity?
They are quite overwhelming, I must say. More than 1/3 or 36% of adults in the United States are obese. And 17% of children in the United States are obese, which affects 13 million children and adolescents. I recently saw a news story that stated that there are 125 million children worldwide who are either overweight or obese. That's pretty astounding. And in doing some research for this interview, based on the most recent World Health Organization, in 2015, 3 out of 10 adults in the United Kingdom were obese, and they're expecting in the next 20 years for that to be 4 out of 10 adults. And the World Health Organization also stated that the obesity epidemic in the world has more than doubled since 1980. So the statistics are overwhelming.
Yeah, so this really, even though there are billions of people around the planet without enough food to eat, at the same time, there's literally billions of people who are both adults and children really struggling with their weight, which affects them on all levels, not just physically, mentally, emotionally, and energetically.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a serious issue. Now, you described, Maurice, your life as a diet. What does that actually mean for you?
Well, I guess the best way to answer that is this is an issue I have been dealing with since childhood. And if you name a diet, I have been on it, and probably some of them a number of times. I remember as early as age 9 when the first dietary meal supplement powders that you made a shake with came out. I think they were the name brands were Metrical and Seago, and this is decades ago. I was on that. At age 12, I remember that my mother took me to a weight loss specialist, and I was given cow placenta injections for weight loss.
Oh my goodness.
I've been on diet pills. I've done calorie counting, fat gram counting, carbohydrate counting, using just exercise to try to lose weight. I've actually been on a medically supervised starvation. I've done protein sparing fasts that are the liquid protein diets like OptiFast and MetaFast a number of times. The cabbage soup diet, the Mayo Clinic diet, the Stillman diet, the Zone diet, the South Beach diet, the rice diet. I even had the lap band surgery, which was minimally effective. So as you can see, I could go on and on, but you get the picture. I've been on every diet imaginable.
So I would personally give you the designation of diet expert.
I am. You know, after being on all these diets over the years, I've actually become a diet and nutrition specialist, you know. You just learn after you continue to do that over and over again. And I'm sure there are millions like myself out there.
Yes, I'm sure you're not the only one. And for myself, I look at a lot of this struggle as a true human tragedy. I mean, I've had clients, they've gone on, let's say, Weight Watchers. They lose 50 pounds on Weight Watchers. They go off the diet and they gain 70 pounds.
Yes.
And so it's the information in your wonderful book. Again, your book is my favorite book on dieting. So if you're listening, head over to Amazon and order My Life as a Diet, Understanding and Healing for Never-Ending Dieters, because it's not what you're eating. Wouldn't you agree, Maurice?
Absolutely, it is not.
It's not what you're eating. It's not the number of calories. It's not the number of grams of protein or carbs or ounces of this or that. That's all a big fiction. So again, I just love your beautiful book because you address the true mental, emotional, spiritual aspects. Now, with your numerous attempts at losing weight, what do you think has been your biggest obstacle that has kept you from maintaining your weight loss and that affects so many other people?
Hands down, the biggest obstacle for myself, and I know that the biggest obstacle for individuals that are obese is self-image and self-esteem. No matter how much weight I lost, even when I reached a relatively normal size in my early 30s, I still saw myself and thought of myself as a fat man. And I had that fat mindset with all the insecurities and despair, guilt, fears, anxiety, depression, and so forth that accompany the fat mind. So definitely it is the mental vision of who we are. It stays with us, that self-image and self-esteem.
All right. Now, in these interviews for the Natural Healing Show, I really want to truly empower our listeners. And in your book, one of the things I love about it is that you give people some examples of mindset, of what to think instead. So I'm going to challenge you right now and put you on the spot to come up with some affirmations. And maybe we can do this together. So I would say a good affirmation to change your mindset from this fat mindset to healthy mindset is I am beautiful inside and out. I am naturally thin and I act like a naturally thin person. All right, your go.
I love myself just as I am, body, mind, and spirit at this moment in time.
Oh, that is so beautiful. I love that. Okay, here's another one. My outside reflects the truth of who I really am on the inside. Okay, your go.
I accept myself and I look in the mirror and love the person I see.
That is so amazing. So amazing. I love that. How about I love and accept all the vulnerable parts of myself.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I love my body. I love my thighs. I love my stomach. I love my radiant outer being. My radiant outer being reflects my inner health and well-being. Your go.
I approve of myself in every way, and it makes me feel great. These are actually what I'm using are some of the affirmations from my book that that I share in the healing plan.
Yeah. I appreciate them so much because this is the real stuff. This is real stuff. And while we're interviewing, if you have your book there, I would love for you to pull those out and share some more, because these are the real thoughts that you want to start thinking. And now, Maurice, when you realized after going on all these diets that they weren't working, what was it in you that made you realize and recognize that you needed to change your mindset?
Like all of us, we have our subconscious demons, those inner voices and critics that put us down and make us feel worthless. Albert Einstein stated, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And that's exactly what I and others, I use the term never-ending diets. It's the yo-yo diets. It's exactly what you said. You lose 50 and you gain 70. There's also a saying that's nothing changes if nothing changes. And I realized that when I was doing my soul searching that I was tired of being tired. I was tired of all the drama and trauma that I created for myself from all the related obesity issues. So I realized that if I was going to change, that what I needed to do to heal myself, the one thing I could change was how I thought about myself, to change my negative thoughts and patterns if I ever hoped to be okay and truly love myself. And it was this realization that I needed to change the way I thought was the turning point that led me to create this healing plan for myself, and then ultimately led me to writing this book.
It's such a profound book. My Life is a Diet. Now, Maurice, how has your life been affected by obesity, your life yourself?
Well, it's been affected in every way, in every stage of my life. In my childhood, I remember the cruel bullying and shameful feelings that I experienced when I was called fatso, or that the children around me would chant, fatty, fatty, 2x4, can't get through the bathroom door. As a teen, not being invited to social events, being turned down by girls who I invited to go out. I allowed myself to become the class clown so I would gain some acceptance, but that was outwardly right. Inside me, I was just in agony because I was having to do that and not being the real me. Throughout my whole life, my obesity affected my health, of course, my self-image, my feeling of being sexually inadequate. Daily living, trying to tie shoes was a major issue. Fitting into clothes or ripping out of the seams of clothes because of my weight. I remember pretending to be sick so I wouldn't have to go to family or social events because I was embarrassed by my fat. I had been turned down for jobs because of my fat. I know that walking around with the fear, the knowledge that obesity can increase my chances for heart attacks and strokes. And I know the distress, the constant distress of joint pain and how osteoarthritis affected my mobility. And I guess I could sum it up by saying, in my life, I have been ostracized, criticized, immobilized, compromised, and shamed because of my obesity. It affected everything in my life.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you've been through that. But because of your personal struggle with this, you're such a true speaker on this subject, and one who really deserves to be listened to, because you have such an important message. Now, I want to share for your listeners, as I mentioned, I had eating disorders twice in my life. And after the second round of this struggle, I realized that I needed to work on my self-image and my self-talk, and the messages that I was giving myself, and to clear out messages I received from society and others. So I have a friend who does work similar to what I do as a medical intuitive healer, and we would work together literally every week for an entire year just on body image. And now today at 58, I don't struggle with my weight. I'm the same weight that I was when I was 30, 28 years ago. I can wear whatever I want. I can eat whatever I want. The other day I went to dinner. I had a really nice fancy dinner with someone, and they were commenting about my eating. And I said, yes, I eat candy in bed and chocolate every afternoon. And the candy in bed and the chocolate every afternoon, that's not a problem. It's this stuff that Maurice is talking about. So what was it? What was the turning point in your life with all this struggle and all this suffering that you realized, was there an incident that made you switch and made you realize that you needed to work on your mindset?
Well, as I mentioned, I was at home for an extended period of time recovering from one of my health issues. And it was during this time that I really had the time to sit down and think about my life, my history, everything I had been through, and what was the key, what was going to be different for me than every other time. It was not going to be that fad diet. It was not going to be the latest diet that was published by whoever. There are thousands of diet books, and probably most of them will work. I think some of them are insane, but most of them will work if you stick to anything. Will work if you stick to it long enough. But that wasn't the issue. The issue was my mind. I knew that it was how I thought about myself, how I felt about myself, and the resulting what the results from those thoughts and those feelings being anxiety, depression, fear, unhappiness, etc. So I knew that was what had to change.
That's really beautiful. Now, in the social media, if you go to Instagram, for example, we're presented with lots of images of people in their bathing suits or their fitness wear, and you can see their 6-pack or their 8-pack, and they're selling their protein shakes and their extreme exercise programs. And then on the other hand, I read recently where the word thinspiration has been banned because it inspires eating disorders, and now people are getting away with bonspiration, which pictures of their bony bodies. So what do you think, as a true diet expert, as a true authority on empowering people to change their mindset, what do you think of all these images that we're presented with in the social media of these so-called healthy people with their tiny bodies?
Well, it's not just Instagram, because being on Facebook, I see all these individuals touting diets and touting specific types of exercise and equipment. And of course, the fashion industry, for example, they have these, well, now they're getting a little better because they're starting to get more plus size models. But all these, this is what we're brought up with. This is what we are inundated with on a daily basis, be it through social media or TV, even going to the movies. And it's just gotten out of hand, and it affects the whole social, the whole populace on how we think about ourselves and our bodies. And it's terrible.
Right. And a lot of what we see, of course, is not actually real because there's so much plastic surgery and liposuction and so on. And by the way, if you're listening, just know that we're not judging you because we understand, Maurice and I understand that this is all coming out of a real desire to be loved, to be accepted. Wouldn't you say, Maurice?
Well, yes, but the main thing is to accept ourselves.
Right. Now, what do you feel would be the key to get out of, if you're listening for our listeners, what advice would you give them, Maurice, to empower them to get out of their misery and to heal their mindset?
I would like to read a quote, if I may. This is actually in my book at the beginning of the introduction of my plan. And this is a quote from James Allen, "As a Man Thinketh." The aphorism, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he," not only embraces the whole of a man's being, but is so comprehensive as to reach out to every condition and circumstance of his life. A man is literally what he thinks, his character being the complete sum of all his thoughts. So this is what it's all about. It's what my healing plan is. It's about absorbing ourselves into changing how we think about ourselves. And it does work. I know that the ultimate goal for any individual who is overweight or obese is to lose weight. But again, that magic diet is going to last for just so long. And the most critical part of our beings is our thought process about ourselves. And it's not just for obese people, for anyone. So my plan is about affirming ourselves and changing our thought processes about ourselves through the use of affirmations. And these are affirmations with the various virtues and human qualities that have led never-ending dieters, as I quote, yo-yo dieters, to stay in that place. To change that place, we have to change the way we think. And in my plan, there are chapters on various human qualities like acceptance, which is one of the big ones. And I discuss the issue, and then I give a number of affirmations at the end. And in the healing plan, I tell you how to absorb yourself morning, noon, and night in doing this. And what I can share with the listeners is that this does work. And maybe you've tried it before, but perhaps not with the guidance and the amount of use of the affirmations that they need to be. I know for myself, I still do affirmations. You know, I've changed how I feel about myself when I look in the mirror and how I feel on a daily level. It's a totally 180-degree change. And that's all due to this healing plan that I created for myself, which is, as James Allen says, a man is literally what he thinks, how he thinks.
Now, Maurice, what are the affirmations that you continue to use today to reinforce this positive self-image?
Well, I use a number of them, but one of the main ones I use, and I believe I shared similar, is I love myself unconditionally and I accept myself just as I am right now. And another one I use is I approve of myself in every way, and it makes me feel great. And I give myself hugs. This is one thing I share in the book. You know, whether you have a partner or spouse or significant other, we just don't get enough hugs in life. And I know that being obese is a very lonely, dark place to be. And we need to change that to being in a place of light and love. And that is done through changing our mindset and giving ourselves hugs. I mean, I give myself a hug just like this. And I talk about that in the book, you know?
You know, what you're saying is so profound. And I want to make a comment because I myself, I'm 58 and a half. So I'm a year and a half from 60. And in my most recent book, The Difference Between Pain and Suffering, I wanted to illustrate the exercises that I use most often to get people out of pain. So there I was in my yoga tights, and I haven't had plastic surgery. I don't diet. Nothing in my face has been injected or cut off. Nothing in my body is injected or cut off. Like, this is a real body. And part of what I wanted to do was show people what's possible just by living a healthy life without dieting, giving up this need to diet. And so, Maurice, how can you encourage people to give up this cycle of never-ending dieting? Because it's an addiction, I think.
It is. But we can't ignore the fact that, and I speak for myself, and I think for the overweight populace, is that obesity does affect your life in every way. And the main thing is our health. And I know I am still overweight. I'm still working on getting the weight off, but it's a whole different ballgame, because before you can do anything that's going to be success, you have to love and accept yourself where you are now. And the mindset has to be exactly that, of acceptance. And with that, you can follow that eating plan. And it doesn't have to be you're going to be thin by tomorrow. It could be a year from now, 2 years from now. But in the process, you have to live and you have to feel good about yourself. Because if you don't, once again, you're going to lose the 50 and you're going to gain 70 back. Because that mindset is not changed and you just don't feel good about yourself.
Yeah. What I find, I've also helped clients lose untold amounts of weight. And what I find at the end of the day is that when you focus on losing anything, well, if I lose my keys, I want to go find them and get them back. So on the other hand, if I focus on achieving my ideal size, that's a mindset that will work. But what I find, even above and beyond achieving your ideal size, is that when you really focus on being healthy and as being as healthy as you can be, then your weight is going to go where it needs to go.
Exactly.
And yes. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to share something else. After I developed this plan for myself and I went through it, I wanted to share that the world saw the change in me. My family and friends saw this dramatic shift in my outlook about myself and life and my future. And I have a friend who's been, since childhood, we've been friends. And he said to me, you know, Maurice, I see a spectacular sparkle in you, in your aura, that I've never seen before. And I get chills when I think about that, because for so long I felt so bad about myself and did not like the image I saw in the mirror. And to have someone recognize that, and for me to realize that what I had done had affected every cell in my body, was just monumental. And what I want to say to every obese individual is it can happen for you. And once again, it's all a matter of changing our thought processes about how we think about ourselves, going from the negative to the positive. It's exciting to be in a wonderful space, and I want to stay that way, and that's why I continue to use my affirmations. And it's really easy. It's just a matter of commitment, and so I just want to emphasize that.
Now, Maurice, you talk in your beautiful book, My Life is a Diet, Understanding and Healing for Never-Ending Dieters. You talk about a plan. What exactly is your plan? Just coming up with a bunch of affirmations? How do people know what are the right affirmations for them?
Well, I discuss in the book, and I'm just going to read some of these. I discuss, first of all, I describe the plan, and it's all about the use of these affirmations morning, noon, and night. It's about absorbing ourselves, and I provide ways to do this, to incorporate it in your life. And then I describe different human qualities and chapters as acceptance, forgiveness, gratitude, health, on being perfect, being in crisis. And I discuss each of these issues, and then at the end of that chapter, I give a set of 4 to 7 or 8 affirmations for them to start using. And they do one at a time. They go to acceptance, and then they move to the next one, gratitude, and then they move to the next one, keeping some of the others from before and constantly. And that you're going to see the change. You're going to start seeing the change, and you just have to keep it up.
This is really beautiful. Now, again, going back to this whole idea of being perfect, whatever that is, how would I know, right? Because again, we're bombarded with images of what people think our body should look like.
Right.
And so how do you go about battling this barrage of images and overcoming this idea that you have to be perfect and you have to look like these images?
Well, I make this suggestion in the book, and I know that there's probably a large number of people who would not feel comfortable with it. But I suggest that you do the affirmations when you're at home, to do them looking in a mirror, because this gives you the visual. And I go even a step further, because I do it without clothes. And this is to love and accept myself. And, this one thing that dates back from one of the pioneers in how we think was going through each part of our body. It's just like you were saying, I love my shoulders, I love my arms, I love my chest. It's about looking at us and loving ourselves as a whole person. So this perfection that we see through social media and on the TV and the fashion industry, as we discussed, that's all a bunch of, hooey. And we have to accept ourselves with every curve, with every pound, with every, how we look at the moment. It's a matter, again, of looking in the mirror and say, I love myself just as I am right now.
And an exercise that I have given some of my clients whenever I'm doing medical intuitive readings on this subject, an exercise is to get in front of a full length mirror, take an eyebrow pencil. Now, if you're a woman, you definitely have one, or a lip pencil. Or if you're a guy, use a ballpoint pen, it'll come off. Or crayons, and literally get stark naked in front of the mirror and write on your body, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love my thighs, I love my butt, I love my stomach, I love my face, and literally write that on your body as you are looking at yourself. Because usually when you really pay attention to what you're thinking and feeling, when you look at yourself in the mirror, it's not these messages of self-love and self-acceptance that Maurice is talking about. Now, in your book, you have talked about some of the changes that you've seen in yourself. What do you think is the single most important thing an individual can do if they are struggling with their weight issues?
And well, once again, is to change how we think about ourselves. We are responsible for ourselves and how we feel and act. And we have a tendency to create these demons in our mind, which are those voices that keep us struggling, that keep us in the state of self-criticism, self-hatred, poor self-esteem. And the most important thing is to start listening and recognizing those critical voices and stop them and realize that what they are saying is not true. You know, when you were just saying about looking in the mirror and say, I love you, I think perhaps the biggest and most important affirmation that any of us can say is look in the mirror and point at ourselves and say, I love you. I love you, Maurice. I love you, Catherine. I love you, David. I love you, Sally, whatever your name is. And we need to stop those voices and really start loving ourselves no matter what. And the key to success starts in the mind. You know, that's how it is.
Yeah. And, you know, I love that the keys to success starts in your mind. And, you know, so many people say, I'm going to be happy when I'm going to be happy when I lose another 10 pounds. I'm going to be happy when, you know, this or that happens in my life.
Exactly.
What I observed about myself is don't wait to be happy. Live in the now. It's all happening right now. And don't put off your happiness. Don't put off your self-acceptance. Don't put off your self-love. Now, Maurice, I would say that one of my personal keys to success is I never weigh myself. And I can't even remember the last time I weighed myself. And the reason that I stopped weighing myself was that I noticed when I weighed myself, I would say, I am, and then a number. Well, I'm so much more than a number. You're so much more than a number. And if you're listening, you're so much more as a human being. You have so many beautiful qualities. You're not just a number that's your weight. So what's your feeling on weighing yourself and using the word I am and then this number?
I agree with you wholeheartedly, because that for an obese person, overweight person who's obsessed with losing weight, they judge themselves and they say, I am this number, you know. And, you know, I think it depends upon the individual. I think that it can help if you are, once you change your mindset and that you're comfortable with getting on the scale and seeing the change. But, you know, for me, if I get on the scale and I see it's up 0.2 of a pound, then I want to beat myself up and judge myself. What's wrong with what I've been doing? And, you know, the body is an amazing thing. You know, water retention, there's a lot of issues that can affect that 0.2 of a pound or that 2 pounds up. You know, I think that's, you know, each individual has to look at that, but we are not that number. And that number, when we are on a plan, after we come to terms with loving ourselves, if it does go up, that's not a judgment of how we've done on a particular plan.
Yeah. So I personally feel that you need to be super careful with any words you put after I am.
Exactly.
You know, when you're invoking I am, you're invoking divine consciousness.
Absolutely.
You want to have the most empowering words possible after I am. I am a beautiful, radiant, healthy example of all that is.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. So, Maurice, what is your ultimate goal that you wish to achieve with your book?
Well, I'd like to read the dedication at the beginning of my book, if I may. This book is lovingly dedicated to all never-ending dieters. Your exceptional drive and strength to achieve your goals puts you in an incomparable class of your own. This book is my gift to you, to let you know that you are not alone, that you have a friend who truly understands and cares, but more importantly, to inspire you to unlock and live all your dreams and aspirations that you so deserve. And exactly what you said, we have to live now. You know, being older, you know, and I think you agree, time passes very quickly. And you wake up and say, where did all the years go? And you don't want to do that. You know, you want to be able to live in the moment and enjoy what's happening now. And you can't do that when you're obsessed and feeling negative about yourself and all the related issues that go with that. So my goal is, I said, even if I could help one individual, then writing my book was worth it. And I'm happy to say that the feedback I've gotten has been pretty dramatic about all the individuals that have contacted me regarding the success they've had from reading my book.
What sort of feedback have you received from your readers of your beautiful book, My Life is a Diet?
Well, I think, exactly, I gave you the thought that, or the example that my friend shared to me, that he saw a spectacular sparkle in me. And I've had people tell me that their whole attitude about themselves and life has changed, which has allowed them to move forward and do things they've never done before. And that their spouses and their children and their friends have seen such a difference in how they, their aura, their being, and just their whole change. And it's just been very gratifying to know that I have provided a way to help them achieve that.
That's beautiful. Now, Maurice, in two of my books, What is Healing? Awaken Your Intuitive Power for Health and Happiness, and also in my latest book, The Difference Between Pain and Suffering, I talk about payoffs. Payoffs are secondary gains that people get from staying sick or overweight. So these are things like you mentioned, like, I don't have to go to the party, or I don't have to go swimming, or I don't have to try dating, or I don't have to take a risk. I don't have to put myself out there. So when people are using their weight as an excuse, what are some of the signals that you can point out for our listeners that they're putting off their life, they're waiting, and they're using their weight as a waiting game?
I think when you are in a certain state, sometimes you get very comfortable in that state, even though you're miserable. And I think you need to take a step back and look and take a hard look at yourself and say, am I staying fat or obese or whatever because I'm comfortable? That this is the only way I know. Well, then you need to take it a step further and realize that if you're going to stay this way, you're going to keep on thinking in the same way. You're going to keep on feeling the same way. And who wants to stay in that thought process? So when you see yourself making excuses to go to social events, not putting yourself out there, staying at home and watching TV and sitting all the time and not participating in life, you need to step up to the base. And in order to do that, you have to change how you think. So I think it's a matter, again, of being responsible for yourself and taking a hard look at where you are and how you are acting and reacting to life.
That's beautiful. And we have to remember that your body responds instantly to every word that you speak to it and every thought that you think inside your head, whether or not you say it out loud. So if you're thinking negatively about your body or about the way you look, your body, every cell in your body is responding to that. And in my book, The Difference Between Pain and Suffering, I talk about how your soul controls your mind controls your emotions control your energy, and your energy controls the physical. So this approach that Maurice is talking about, this thought diet to let go of the waiting game on your weight, is so profound. You've been listening to Maurice Horwitz, the Amazon #1 bestselling author of My Life is a Diet, Understanding and Healing for Never-Ending Dieters. You can find out more about him on his Facebook page, My Life is a Diet, and follow him on Twitter at My Life is a Diet. This is Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about me and my books at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, sign up for my newsletters. You're going to get a lot of free stuff. And our message today is change the way you think Feel good about yourself on the inside and watch how your body naturally responds with radiant health. Thanks so much for listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. We'll see you next time.